Two types of people just clicked on this video. The first type knows they're a chud and knows that something needs to change, and the second has no idea what a chud is. I think it's important for both the group that I just said knows what a chud is and those who don't know what a chud is. I think it's important for me to introduce my operational definition for this because there's a couple of different definitions out there that you can look up on Urban Dictionary or other sites that doesn't really match what I'm going for. But my working definition, I took notes, is someone who gets up to nothing. They're just kind of useless, bring no value to the table, and they're lazy and chopped. Now that may seem a little bit harsh, and obviously I'm messing around a little bit, but at the same time, a lot of people in this generation and people around my age find themselves doing nothing whenever they have free time, just scrolling on their phones or watching meaningless shows without actually holding on or retaining any of the information. And especially, I don't know, maybe I'm just the biggest chud ever, but have you guys ever been watching a show and you do care about this show, right? Or maybe you don't. You put on a show and then you're on your phone doing something else. Maybe you even have like 3 things going at once, right? You have like your iPad, you're doing something, you're playing a game, you're watching a show on TV, and then you're scrolling on your phone. And it's just like, how much can you possibly take before, you make a difference? Because that is what I call entering chud state. Now, what I mean by chud state is it's a prolonged state of chudding out. And, it's like a play on words, kind of like flow state, but it's real. And once you enter chud state, it's so hard to dig yourself out of that hole because everything just gets so boring and nothing brings any value to you. So you just constantly search and scroll and just maybe even sit around and do nothing, trying to find anything of value. But since you're in that perpetual state of chudding around, nothing will bring you value. And what that leads to is perpetual brain rot. And brain rot's a term that gets used a lot, but it's real. It's something that affects the younger generation in a really bad way because it makes us so immune to reaching for anything bigger. It keeps us out of the present, and I think it's important to be present, especially when you want to achieve anything worthwhile, because you can't reach any goals if you're constantly just searching for dopamine or the next video on your For You page in your algorithm, and not being able to focus on anything meaningful will ultimately lead to like an human experience, because that's what I'm focused on finding. I'm only 19 years old, but I'm already so focused on trying to get the most out of this one life I have. And I think it's important to look inwards and try and figure out what's important to you. And you can't do that when you're in chud state. And I know what you might be thinking. You clicked on the video because I said it's okay to be a chud sometimes. And then now I've just been lecturing and saying all these bad things about being a chud. But it's just like anything else in life. You need to chud out in moderation. It needs to be limited. And it's really hard to do that because it's kind of an addiction in a way. Just like doing nothing or just doing the most stimulating thing to pass time until whatever your next important or monotonous task is that you have to get done. And it's a hard task finding the right balance, because there is no correct balance that works for every single person that's watching this. Some people may be able to pull off like a 90 to 10 ratio of production and like productive work to chudding. And that doesn't work for me. I need my downtime. My ratio that I use is probably somewhere around 80 to 20, or at least that's what I'm aiming for. 80% of the time I'm trying to be productive, and then 20% of the time I'm allowing myself to chud out. But the thing is that you can't enter chud state, because once you do that, it's so hard to get out of it. And what I think you need to do to find this proper equilibrium of being productive and chudding out is to just experiment, right? I'd say lean more into being overly productive to start, because it's gonna get you out of your initial comfort zone. And then whenever you find yourself burnt out, then you'll know, okay, like maybe 80 to 20 was a little bit too much productiveness, for at least for that day. And because it can range. Some days it's like 50-50, and that's the best you're gonna get out of me. And that doesn't make me bad or make me worse than anybody else, because like I said, it ranges. It's a completely different thing for everyone else. I just don't want you to feel bad for needing downtime, but you cannot lean into that downtime and convince yourself that you need so much more downtime than you actually do, if that makes any sense. And a good way to figure out if you're satisfied with your ratio right now is, like, think about the last meaningful thing that you did that you're proud of that you weren't told to do, and think about how long ago that was, or how meaningful and impactful it was. And then think about the last time that you were in chud state and you were doing jack shit. Because I can almost guarantee you that if you clicked on this video, you know that you've been slacking. And I'm not saying that in like a you need to get hard and like all that David Goggins shit. I don't buy into that, because I think that there's levels to it, and that's just way too far. You got to get back down here. You got to find your balance, because not everybody's David Goggins, and then not everybody's just the lowest of the low chuds, because I don't want to be that. I have been that. I've been that. And you've probably been that too if you clicked on this video. In fact, I've had the idea for this video for probably 2.5 weeks now, and I've just been sitting on it for so long, and it's so frustrating. I'll find any excuse I can find to not sit down and record this video. I'll literally find the tiniest little thing and say, oh well, shit, like I can't record the video now because I stubbed my toe earlier today. And that is a prime example of someone who's just been away from being productive in a meaningful way to your own desire, if that makes any sense. It's finding what you want to do and finding what's important to you, and not what people are telling you is important to you, but looking within and truly understanding, what do I want to do? Not even in a career sense, or in a what do you want to do today kind of thing. It's more of like, it's deeper than that. It's like purpose, but I don't like the word purpose. It gets mixed up with a lot of different things. But whenever you're far away from that and you don't work with it and you go against it because it's scary, then you turn into what I've been the past couple of weeks, where I just find any excuse to not start. And that is inexcusable in and of itself. So you're probably listening to this and thinking, that's all fine and dandy, but like, what the fuck is your point? Like, how does this matter to me? Like, how can I even get anything out of this? Why am I still watching this video? And so it's important to have you know, if I give advice like this, or I don't know, just fucking bullshit and waffle about this random ass topic that you were so bored that you clicked on this video for, is that I have to like provide some form of actionable steps and like actual meaningful advice, because this whole time I've just been yapping and I haven't really said anything super helpful. I've just kind of been like setting up the basis of what I'm talking about. And so I think the first thing is get off of your phone or whatever you're watching this on. And it's contradictory because that's how you're watching this video and getting this advice. And I really do appreciate you watching, but I'm saying after you get done watching this video, which I know it's kind of selfish, but please watch the rest of the video, please. After this video, get off your phone and just, it doesn't even have to be for a really long time. Just put it down. Close the tab, turn off your computer, turn off the TV, whatever you're watching me on, turn it off. Just sit there. Find anything to do. Think. Just sit there and think. You can even do it for 1 minute, but I urge you to do like 5 to 10 minutes, because 1 minute is nothing. But if you're so far in it that 1 minute is really, really tough to just sit there and think, then by all means, sit there for 1 minute. And I'd say try not to time yourself, because, you know, you time yourself and then you reach the timer limit and you're like, oh, like, thank God, now I can get back to, you know, doing random bullshit. But just challenge yourself to sit in silence for just a second, because once you start thinking, it's so much easier to imagine anything important to your life and to your human experience. I truly think just giving yourself even a tiny sliver of time to just think and not be distracted 24/7, I promise you it will make a tiny difference, maybe even a major difference, but it will at least make a tiny difference. And tiny differences and tiny little steps is what you build to get to where you want to be. So that's my first thing. Now, chances are, after you've given yourself some time to think, you're kind of lost and you're like, well, what the fuck do I do now? And so the next thing that I think is important for you to do is, one, like, just go on a little walk, like get up and do something, because once you're walking around, once you're actually in motion, it's a lot easier to just not sit right back down. And it's easier to do nothing whenever you're just sitting around in the same spot or like laying down. So getting up, like, go talk to somebody, go talk to a family member or like a friend or anybody. You can just say hi. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to tell all your dirtiest secrets. And I'd say the next important thing is to either jump into a hobby that you've already been in and actually pour a little bit of meaningful time into it and thought. You don't even have to put a crazy amount of time. I'm just uninterrupted, no distraction. Just give it like 10 minutes of something you're already interested in. Or if you don't have any meaningful hobbies, because some people really just don't do anything, and that's okay, but just find something. Try something new. I think trying something new, you'll be surprised at what you actually enjoy. You might have some form of an opinion on something that you've never actually tried, and it could be stopping you from finding something you truly enjoy. So definitely try to pour some time, even if it's just a small amount of time to start. Just pour a little bit of time into a hobby or just something that interests you, and try to learn something new. Maybe just do anything that will bring you just a little bit of happiness or joy, because that intentional happiness and that intentional work towards something you think is actually valuable or just fun, even if it's like And this is gonna sound crazy, but even if it's like a video game or a game or something, as long as you're very intentional about it and you have some like a certain something that you're trying to get out of it, I'd even say you can start with that. Of course, I don't want that to be the main hobby because you can only get so much from gaming. And trust me, I play video games all the time, but I wouldn't say you want that to be your end goal. But if you're really struggling to find something, just find something that you can extract from the game that you're playing and be really intentional about it. And then I'd say that that's fine to lean into to start. And all of this to say that I don't believe in being productive all the time. I know I've already said that, but I do want to harp on the importance of downtime and how it can actually lead to a healthier, more productive life if you allow yourself to have the downtime. What I don't want is for you to get into this trap, this mindset of thinking I always have to be doing something, because then you're just going to stress yourself out, and then it's going to lead to burnout, and then you're not going to want to do something meaningful that will actually improve your life. And so I think you need downtime. Everybody needs downtime. Downtime is very important. So, like I said, it's okay to be a chud, but you have to manage it. You can't just only be a chud. You can't enter chud state. And I know it's such a goofy term, but it's very applicable, especially with the younger generation. And I just think that having intentionality with everything, and even whenever you are having that downtime, just making sure that you're not literally rotting your brain, and just try to remember what you do. That's all I'm asking. Even if you scroll on TikTok, try to remember the videos that you watch with your downtime, and you'll start to feel better. You won't feel that fog in your brain, because that fog is the worst. And then you're just kind of like floating around in your day. Like throughout your day, you're just, and you're not really experiencing it to its fullest. And I think that that's the worst, is once you enter chud state, you don't have that full human experience of just being. But then again, you can do whatever the fuck you want. I'm just a random dude yapping to you. But yeah, just try and do something with your day. Try and think. Just think. That's all I'm asking you to do, is just at least think about this. But that about wraps up all that I wanted to say in this video. If you're still watching, thank you very much. I know I just kind of rambled about some random shit, but I hope that you were able to get some value out of it in any way, even if it's just like a tiny little quote or just one of the many tangents I went off on. I hope it brought some form of value to you, and I hope that I could impact you in any positive way. Thank you so much for watching, and if you really like the content, subscribe to me. If you only kind of like it, try to like it for me, please. This is my first video, and I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to go above and beyond, there's this new feature on YouTube that will greatly help small starting channels like me. It's called like the hype. You'll find it underneath. And basically you can hype 3 times per week, I think is what it is. You don't have to use all your points on me, but if you'd like to, that'd be very awesome sauce. Thank you again for watching. I know I've said it a bunch, but really it means a lot to me. I don't want to be yapping to nobody, but also I'm going to make these videos as like a way to give myself a lesson, because it's easier to listen to something when you have someone else telling you, even if it's going to be my own voice telling myself. I hope that makes sense. But anyways, thank you for watching. like and subscribe if you liked it. Maybe hype me up because that would be awesome sauce. And I mean, that's going to be about it. Stay toasty, guys.